Marian Hale turned the key in her own front door and froze. The house she had built with 20 years of sweat and sacrifice was alive with noise. Laughter that did not belong to her. Music rattling the windows. The smell of burnt food wafting through the air. On her porch stood her daughter Ella Kelsey, wearing Marian's embroidered apron like it was her badge of ownership. Children she did not know kicked a ball into her flower pots. Beer cans rolled across the lawn she had mowed with her own hands. Marian's voice trembled but stayed steady. "This is my home, Kelsey." Her words met nothing but a cold smirk. Kelsey crossed her arms. Trevor said, "We can use it as long as we want. You live in the city. We need space." Behind her, strangers peeked out. Kelsey's mother, sister, cousins, none of them offering a word of welcome. Instead, they looked at Marian as if she were the intruder. At 70 years old, Marian stood small in her travel clothes, yet unbroken. She felt every eye press judgment onto her skin. Still, she refused to beg. She refused to fight their way. She drew in a breath, lifted her chin, and said, "Only I understand." But inside, a promise burned. If they thought she would leave quietly, they had just awakened the wrong woman. Before that humiliating morning, Marian Hale's beach cottage had always been her sanctuary. 20 years earlier, she was a 50-year-old widow with nothing but a sewing machine, a second-hand car, and a stubborn will. While others doubted her, Marian stacked fabric orders high, stitching until her fingers throbbed, saving each check in a worn envelope tucked behind flower jars in her kitchen. Every curtain she hemmed, and every wedding dress she altered, brought her one step closer to her dream. The dream was this cottage on the edge of Cape May, New Jersey. She remembered standing on the vacant lot the first day, the salty wind blowing through her hair, clutching her savings book. People said it was foolish for a seamstress to want a beach house. But Marian saw possibility. Weekends turned into work days, painting walls herself, planting geraniums in clay pots, sanding the porch railing until it gleamed under the sun. Trevor, her only son, sometimes joined her, helping with roof shingles and laughing as they ate sandwiches on the half-finished deck. For Marian, this cottage was not luxury, it was survival. It symbolized every long night she fought loneliness after her husband's passing, every penny she saved instead of spending. It was proof that even a woman the world dismissed could create something enduring with her own 2 hands. When Marian returned the following day, the cottage looked less like a home and more like the aftermath of a summer carnival gone wrong. 3 unfamiliar cars blocked her driveway. Folding chairs leaned crooked against the porch rail. Empty soda cans rattled in the breeze, and music thumped from inside, loud enough to shake the windows. Her once trim lawn bore muddy footprints and crushed blossoms. The geraniums she had tended like children were now soccer goals for teenagers she had never met. On the deck, towels dripped over wicker chairs, staining the cushions she had carefully chosen the year before. Inside, the air was thick with burnt grease and too many perfumes competing at once. Strangers wandered her kitchen, moving pots and pans as if they belonged to them. Every corner of the house echoed with voices. Brianna, Kelsey's sister, barking at her 2 teenagers. Doy, Kelsey's mother, laughing too loud, her words dripping with disdain. When Doy caught sight of Marian, she tilted her head with mock surprise. "So, this is the famous mother-in-law." I pictured someone more impressive. Around the table, chuckles followed. Marian swallowed the sting, but her silence was louder than their ridicule. She stood in the doorway, surveying the chaos. This wasn't just an unexpected visit. It was an invasion. Every small detail, the soccer ball scuffing her painted deck, the greasy skillet abandoned on her stove, the careless laughter in the space she had built with sacrifice told her one thing. They weren't planning to leave anytime soon. They had already decided her cottage was theirs. Marian steadied herself on the doorway, the hum of the ocean just beyond the walls, reminding her to keep her voice calm. Kelsey blocked her path, arms crossed, chin raised like she owned the air itself. Trevor said, "We can use this place as long as we want," she declared, her tone dripping with certainty. "You hardly come here. It's wasted on you." Marian's pulse pounded, but her reply was measured. "This house is not a spare key to be passed around. It is my home." Her words floated into a silence that quickly turned sour. Brianna smirked from the sofa, and Doy muttered something under her breath about selfish old women. The weight of humiliation pressed on Marian's chest, yet she refused to crumble. She looked at the mess surrounding her, the muddy footprints on the rug, the plates stacked high with food she had not cooked, the strangers lounging as though she were the visitor. Every piece of it cut deep. But deeper still was the realization that her son had let this happen. Kelsey narrowed her eyes. "You can make this easy or hard, Marian. We have a full house. There's no room for you." Marian inhaled, lifted her chin, and stepped back. Her words were quiet, but unwavering. "I see the choice you've made, and I promise you this will not end the way you expect." That night, Marian lay awake in the dim light of a roadside motel. The thin walls carried the sounds of strangers coming and going, and the bitter coffee she had bought from the lobby sat untouched on the nightstand. She closed her eyes, but each time she did, Kelsey's smirk reappeared. The laughter of people feasting in her kitchen echoed louder than the traffic outside. Her home, her sanctuary, had been reduced to a stage for their mockery. Marian pressed a hand to her chest and felt the steady rhythm of her heart, not anger, not fear, something sharper, resolve. She opened her notebook, the one she usually reserved for grocery lists and sewing measurements, and began to write. #Revenge story, #motivation, #betrayal. A daughter-in-law tried to push Marian out of her own home, but she proved that calm strength and evidence speak louder than insults. Watch how dignity and justice triumphed. Like, share, and comment. Ocean, if you've ever had to reclaim your space. Don't forget to subscribe for more stories of resilience and revenge. #Revenge story, #motivation, #betrayal, #revenge stories, #the art of revenge, #family drama, #Reddit stories. Every detail spilled onto the page. The broken flower pots, the towels on her chairs, the way Brianna's teens had shouted at her to leave. She wrote down each word Kelsey had thrown at her, as if recording evidence for an invisible jury. Then she paused and looked out the window. The moonlight spilled over the ocean in the distance, reminding her why she had fought so hard to own that piece of coastline. Marian whispered to herself, "If they think I'm powerless, they've forgotten who built that house brick by brick." By dawn, her decision was clear. She would not run. She would not yield. She would fight. Early the next morning, Marian returned to the cottage under the pretense of collecting medicine she had forgotten. Brianna opened the door, her voice curt, her eyes heavy with annoyance. "She's asleep," Brianna muttered about Kelsey, waving Marian through as if granting a favor. The smell hit her first. Grease, cigarette smoke, and too much perfume mingled together. Her chest tightened. This was no longer her sanctuary. She climbed the stairs quietly and stepped into her bedroom. Her closet doors were flung wide. Dresses and blouses were stuffed into plastic bags. Shoes piled like junk, ready for donation. 2 children she didn't recognize sprawled across her bed. The quilt she had stitched by hand tangled beneath them. On the floor, her favorite pillows bore stains that made her stomach twist. But the worst discovery waited behind the closet wall, her hidden nook, the place where she had always kept her most important papers. The small space was ransacked. Her jewelry box gaped open, pearl earrings and a gold watch missing. The deed to her cottage lay wrinkled on the floor, and then she saw them. Documents she had never written, thick with legal jargon. A petition to transfer the property into Trevor's name. The justification read, "Owner incapable, due to advanced age." Marian's breath caught. They weren't just occupying her home. They were plotting to erase her from it entirely. She gathered every paper, every scrap of proof. The war had just begun. Marian drove straight to Seaside Federal Bank, her mind sharper than it had felt in years. She walked through the glass doors carrying a folder stuffed with the papers she had found. Alyssa Grant, the branch manager who had known Marian for over a decade, greeted her with the same professional smile she always offered. But when Marian sat down and placed the folder on her desk, the smile faded. "Alyssa, I need to know exactly how much I have," Marian said firmly. "And I need protection." Together, they reviewed every account. The numbers glowed on the screen: checking, savings, certificates of deposit. Decades of careful saving, a few hundred at a time, had grown into something substantial. Enough to cover her needs. Enough to fight. Marian exhaled. A weight lifted. "I want it in writing," she said. "A statement confirming I'm of sound mind and fully managing my own finances." Alyssa nodded. "I'll have it ready this afternoon. And Marian, this is serious. You should see a lawyer. A strong one." Marian's lips tightened into a small, determined smile. "Do you have a name?" Alyssa slid a card across the desk. "Samuel Ortiz. He's handled family property disputes for years. If anyone can put a stop to this, it's him." Marian tucked the card into her folder alongside the evidence she had gathered. The fear she'd felt only yesterday was replaced by something far stronger. She wasn't a helpless old woman. She was a woman with resources, allies, and the will to defend what was hers. That same afternoon, Marian stepped into the office of Samuel Ortiz, a seasoned attorney with silver hair and calm, steady eyes. His office smelled faintly of old books and fresh coffee, the kind of place where details mattered. He motioned for her to sit, opened a yellow legal pad, and said, "Start from the beginning. Do not leave anything out." Marian told him everything. Kelsey's smirk at the doorway, Brianna's mocking laughter, the children sleeping in her bed, the documents in her hidden closet. She laid the forged medical report on the desk. Ortiz studied it with narrowed eyes. "This signature belongs to a doctor you've never met." Marian nodded. "That alone is falsification of medical records. A federal offense." He jotted quick notes, his pen scratching firmly against the page. "Here's the plan," Ortiz said, looking directly at her. "First, we file for an emergency eviction. Trespassing is clear. Second, we report the theft of your jewelry. Third, we notify the medical board about this fraudulent report. And finally, we request a restraining order to protect you from further interference." Marian asked the only question that mattered. "How long will it take? If the judge sees the evidence, the eviction could be immediate or quick, be assured. The rest will follow." He paused. "Are you willing to see this through, even if it destroys your relationship with Trevor?" Marian's jaw tightened. If my son chose betrayal, then he destroyed that relationship himself. My job now is to defend what I built. The next morning, Marian spread her papers across the motel desk like a general preparing for battle. Every scrap of proof was sorted, dated, and labeled. She slipped photographs from her phone into printed sheets. Close-ups of mud smeared across her rugs, her kitchen sink overflowing with greasy dishes. The shattered geranium pots scattered on the deck. Each image carried weight, silent witnesses to the truth. She added screenshots from Brianna's social media. There was Brianna posing in Marian's hammock, captioned, "Family vacation at her new beach house." Another shot showed her serving drinks in the kitchen, grinning as if she were the rightful hostess. Each post was time-stamped another nail in the coffin of their lies. Marian carefully highlighted the captions before sliding the sheets into plastic covers. Then she catalogued the stolen items, pearl earrings her mother had given her on her wedding day, her late husband's gold watch, the silver coins she had collected for decades. She found the insurance papers for the watch and tucked them into the stack. Proof upon proof. When she was done, the folder bulged, but nothing felt scattered. It was all there: photos, receipts, titles, records. Marian pressed the folder closed and whispered, "Paper first, feeling second." For the first time since Kelsey had sneered at her, Marian felt steady. She was ready to face them, not with anger, but with evidence. On Tuesday morning, Marian arrived at the cottage, not alone, but with reinforcements. At her side stood Samuel Ortiz in his dark suit, a county sheriff's officer, and a public notary. Their arrival was quiet, professional, no yelling, no drama. Yet, the weight of authority was unmistakable. As they walked up the drive, Kelsey's coffee mug slipped from her hand, shattering on the porch. Brianna's teenagers froze mid. Joy peered out from the kitchen window, her face pallid. "Good morning," Ortiz began, his voice calm but firm. "We are here under court order to deliver an immediate eviction for unlawful trespassing. This property belongs solely to Mrs. Marian H. Hall." He held up the deed and tax records like shields of truth. The sheriff added, "Unless you can present legal proof of ownership, you must vacate within 2 hours." Kelsey's voice cracked as she sputtered, "My husband is her son. That makes this our family's house too." But the officer shook his head. "Bloodline doesn't override the law." "Ma'am, do you have documentation?" Silence followed. Meanwhile, Marian noticed a small boy tugging on his cousin's sleeve, confused and scared. She knelt beside him, her tone gentle. "Sweetheart, you did nothing wrong, but this house belongs to me, and your family needs to leave now." His wide eyes searched hers, then he nodded slowly. The contrast was stark. Marian's dignity against the chaos swirling around her. Brianna tried filming the scene on her phone, but the notary stopped her. "This is an official proceeding. Put the device away." The humiliation spread like a wave, shouting, scrambling, bags dragged across the floor. Yet Marian stood still on her porch, hands folded, watching. She hadn't raised her voice once, but her calm presence spoke louder than their noise. The house was returning to its rightful owner. Trevor arrived halfway through the chaos, pulling into the driveway in his silver sedan, face flushed with confusion. He climbed out quickly, looking from the sheriff's car to the notary's briefcase. "What's happening?" he asked, though the truth was written in every box and bag being dragged from the house. Marian met his eyes. "Your wife told me you agreed to transfer my home into your name. Was that true?" Her voice was steady, almost gentle. Trevor shifted his weight, fiddling with his keys the way he had as a nervous boy. "It wasn't like that, Mom. We just thought she'd cut him off." "Yes or no, Trevor, did you know about the papers?" The silence stretched, his shoulders sagged. "Yes," he whispered. "I knew." Kelsey swooped in, her tone sharp. "Tell her it was for the good of the family. Tell her you were protecting everyone." But Trevor's composure cracked. "Stop, Kelsey. Just stop." His voice rose for the first time, startling even himself. Marian felt her heart twist. The son she had raised with sacrifices he would never fully understand had chosen pride and pressure over honesty. But instead of rage, she answered with finality. "Then you've made your choice, and now I will make mine." The days that followed moved faster than Marian expected. Samuel Ortiz filed the eviction paperwork, and the court backed it without hesitation. The sheriff's report detailed every stolen item from her mother's pearl earrings to her late husband's watch. Photos and screenshots were entered into record. Even the forged medical report signed by a doctor Marian had never met was now under investigation by the state board. News spread quietly but firmly. Neighbors noticed the police cars, whispers reached Trevor's office, and Kelsey's friends stopped commenting on her cheerful posts. Legal notices arrived in thick envelopes, each one carrying consequences more serious than the last. Asset fraud, falsification of medical documents, trespassing, theft. The family who had laughed at Marian in her own kitchen now spent sleepless nights meeting with lawyers. Their bills mounted, their excuses faltered, and their confidence cracked. Marian, meanwhile, moved with calm precision, signing papers, attending hearings, and answering questions with the steady tone of someone who had nothing to hide. The balance had shifted. What they thought would be a quick victory had become their undoing. One grey afternoon, the doorbell rang at Marian's cottage. Standing there was Kelsey, alone, clutching a canvas bag. Her eyes were swollen from crying, her voice thin. "I came to return your things," she whispered. Inside the bag, Marian found the pearl earrings, the gold watch, the silver coins, every piece that had vanished. Kelsey placed them on the table one by one, like a child forced to hand back stolen toys. "It wasn't meant to be stealing," Kelsey insisted, her words tumbling out. "We were drowning in debt. Trevor lost money, the mortgage is behind, and I thought we could make it work." She wiped at her face. "I made terrible choices." Marian listened, her expression calm but unreadable. "These are not just objects. They are pieces of my life," she said softly. Kelsey nodded, unable to argue. The silence that followed was heavy. Returning the jewelry did not erase the betrayal. It only confirmed how deep the wound had been cut. With the house finally hers again, Marian set about rebuilding not just the walls, but her sense of peace. She hired a local handyman to change every lock, then added sturdy deadbolts and a new alarm system. A small set of cameras went up along the porch and back garden, their quiet red lights glowing at night like silent guardians. For the first time in months, she slept without fear of someone walking through her door uninvited. She also called her attorney to update her will. Instead of leaving the cottage to Trevor, she arranged for it to pass to a coastal conservation group. "If he wants independence," she told Ortiz, "then I will give it to him fully." The words carried no bitterness, only clarity. Marian planted fresh geraniums in the pots by the steps. Their bright red blooms swayed gently in the sea breeze. Each petal reminded her that security was not just about fences and locks, but about choosing peace over betrayal. Marian sat on her porch one quiet evening, the ocean steady in the distance. She had not raised her voice, yet she had reclaimed her dignity. Strength, she realized, was not about shouting the loudest. It was about documenting the truth, standing firm, and refusing to be erased. Her story was not only about a house. It was about boundaries, respect, and the courage to defend what you build.